So the first thing I'm going to do is just close down this horrible yellow thing. I just hate it. I hate it so much. So the next thing is let's all follow along. We're going to hit get data, Excel. Okie dokie. So let's remember which one of these we're going to import. And we're going to import the accounting transactions. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to click Open. So it's just doing its thing. Okay, so now, Aaron, this is where we're going to go nuts. We yesterday clicked on each one of these checkboxes separately, right? But now what we're going to do is I'm going to click on this and this and this. But I am not going to hit load. Now, I'm going to uncheck them a second, right? Look what happens. I check the first one. And we can see this looks like it's behaving. It's hard to tell, but, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. I click on the second one. This is what Alistair pointed out. You see here, because this is an all text, this column is text and this column is text, Power BI doesn't know that these are headers. I mean, it could guess that they were headers, but it prefers not to guess if it thinks it's going to get it wrong. So we're going to have to perform an extra action here to promote the headers. And here as well in this third table. And there's a few things I want us to do to this data set before we import it. All right. So let's make sure all of these three boxes are ticked. And then let's click on Transform Data. Do not click Load. Click on Transform Data. All right. And I want you just to fire off yeses once we managed to get something that looks like this. Nice one, Aaron. Karen, good stuff. Cool. All right. So we're going to start off with the top one. So I'm going to click on my query that is accounting transactions TCRG. Okay. So honestly, this is painful, but I go through this column by column. The first question I ask, I'm not going to remove anything from this data set. I'm going to leave it as is. But I am going to just do as much of a cleanup as I can. So, for example, for the sake of this course, very long headings are just really awkward, all right, because sometimes it's hard to do searches and stuff like that. So let's just spend a couple of seconds tidying this data set up. And this sounds pedantic, but I want to do it. So I'm going to double click on my header and delete the French. If you want to delete the English, go ahead, delete the English. Now this is called accounting control number. I'm going to delete that. Now, can you do this automatically, or there are some operations you can do on column headers? It's not going to be within the scope of this course, but just be aware that you can. Things like trimming and removing hyphens and stuff like that, it is possible to do that within the scope of Power Query. Over here, accounting effective date. I'm just going to delete all this, and you will see. Now, if you want to keep them both English and French, that's fine. I'm just doing this just to make life a bit easier, especially because I'm presenting this back to you guys, right? That's really why I'm doing it. And I'm also checking, right? This is a date. This is a date. Journal identifier, that's a number, that's a number. Fiscal month is 1, 2, 3, that's a number. Department number is a number. So I'm actually going through as I'm doing this, and I'm checking. What you guys want to do in reality is if you do not need a column, right-click on it and hit remove. If you don't know if you need it or not, leave it in. You can always remove it at a later date, right? But it really, really, really is worth, at the very outset, just getting rid of as much junk as you don't need, because otherwise it will clog everything up. So I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds doing this. Hopefully you're all doing the same. The other reason we're doing this is it gets used to just typing things in the interface, okay? Which is sometimes a little bit tricky. All right, so here we have subledger code, credit debit code. We're almost there. Don't forget. Okay. General voucher item amount. That's my dollar thing. That's a decimal. This is important. This is a decimal. That's a decimal. There we go. Control data type. Let's get rid of that. Accounting some transactions is either the last one or almost the last one. Oops. Excuse me. And I think this one here is the final one. Nope, almost the final one. It's just good, you guys just sitting and actually typing stuff in and actually just getting to know your way around the interface. All right. So, can we give me some yeses and nos in the chat? Did we manage to just tidy up the column headers and check that everything was good? That's great. Okay, let's go down to the next one, the one that says control data type. The first thing I want us to do is where we actually have the name control data type, I want to double click on that. Okay, so we're going to change the name. Now, you do not have to do this, but I'm doing this because it's made my life so much easier. We're using the next two tables as cross-references. So I just put in XREF, stands for cross-reference. And then I still keep the name control data type. The reason I do that is then all my cross-reference tables all appear together when I'm in Power BI, right? So they're all together. So if I want to, it keeps them away from my data tables. My cross-reference tables are there. It just makes life so much easier. It's unbelievable. So we've changed the name of the table. And here, look, we need to promote row one as headers. So in my home tab, there's this little button here that says use first row as headers. Literally, we just click on that. Kapow. We've done it. What I want you to do is do that. Oh, I actually use, let's just double check on the chat. Use dim for dimension table. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. You know, you tag this in whatever way you want to. It's a dimension table, it's a data table, it's a cross-reference table. Yes, Oscar, we can repeat it because we're going to do exactly the same on the next table, the journal voucher type code. So we can do that. And Sarah as well. So, you know, it's worth thinking about not every single table, but some of the standard things like cross-references, it's good to actually rename. Let's repeat it, okay? So we're going to do the same with the next table down here, the journal voucher type code. I'm going to click on it, so it's in gray. I'm then going to double click on it, so now it's highlighted so we can change the name. Hit my left arrow, and in front of it, I'm going to type the word XREF. For me, that stands for cross-reference. Did you hit transform, Caroline, or did you hit load when we selected the data? Also, let me just show this to you. This is something that happens quite a lot. Follow my mouse down to the bottom. Here, what happens is, I got three. Actually, I'm going to close down that Power BI. I've got one Power BI open at the moment. I have one screen that is Power BI and one screen here that is actually Power Query. Sometimes when it opens Power Query, it opens it behind Power BI. And you can tell that has happened because we've got this yellow bar across the top. All right. The thing to do there is to take your mouse down to the bottom of the screen. I'm just doing it slowly. Hover it over where the Power BI icon is, and you'll see two things pop up. And then we'll go over and click on the Power Query itself. If the Power Query isn't there, it meant that you hit the load button rather than the transform data. So I'll show you how to get back to Power Query. I'm coming down to the bottom. I'm clicking on it and going back to Power BI. What you will see is this button called Transform Data. All right. If you hit that button that says Transform Data, it will bring up Power Query. Okay, so you only have one down there. So I would go into your Power BI and hit that transform data button. And if you can do that and let me know that you've got the query up and running. For the rest of you, while we wait for that to be confirmed, we've now changed the name of the table to add xref or dim or whatever you want. I also like xref because X is at the end of the alphabet, so it means that all of my cross-reference tables appear at the bottom of the list, right? Keeps them out of the way, but it keeps them all together. Caroline, did hitting the transform data button work? And for any of you, if you're having problems with something, it only takes 2 seconds. We can share screen. You can show me what you're doing, and we can fix it. It only takes 30 seconds, and it's always a good learning experience for the rest of the group, right? So do not be afraid. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Sometimes things are really obvious, and they're not really obvious, right? Okay. Does putting a dash do anything negative in the table name when using Power BI? Like some programs don't like dashes and naming conventions. Don't know. Let's find out. No, there we go. Looks like it's all good. It's going to change the alphabetical sort. It's a character. It's going to appear in the DAX within sort of inverted commas, so it shouldn't affect anything in the DAX. We'll get to that. So I'm not saying no. I was a little quick saying no there. It should be fine. It should be fine, but, you know, it probably isn't the best practice to start something with a dash. Anyhow. So what we need to do here in this table is, again, just to click on that use first row as headers. And now we've got our 3 tables, 2 of which have been renamed. The first of which are the columns have been tidied up, and the second and third of which my headers have been promoted. Can you give me yeses or nos in the chat? And if anybody's not managed to do that, let me know, because it's really quick just to get it up on the screen and to get it fixed. Okay, now it looks like everybody's good. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to hit close and apply. Oh, how do you change the columns? Oscar, so what you do is you double click on the column name. I will show you in a second. Unfortunately, we've got to wait for this to upload the data before I can show you. But this is also, I'm going to show you to get back into the query, so that's fine. So just to show how we change the column, and we can also change the column names in Power BI as well, but just to show you how to get back into Power Query, you know, here is my Power BI file. You can see on the bottom, it's the only thing there. All right. If I want to get back into Power Query, the button that says Transform Data, or in an older version, I think it's called Query. I can't quite remember. If we click on that, then we bring up the Power Query interface. And Oscar, to change any one of the column names, you see my column names, sorry, my table names are here on the left. I literally just double click, and then I can type in whatever I want to. And then as soon as I click outside, I have the new name. So it's as simple as that in terms of changing the column names. I can also change them in Power BI, right? But if I know personally that I am changing a column name, I'm never going to change it in Power BI. I just much prefer to do it in Power Query, because then everything just appears in Power BI. I don't need to do any other manipulation, right? Which is important if more than one person's working on the same file. So is that okay, Oscar? Did that make sense? Oh, your column names are column 1 because you need to promote headers. So let's go back to Transform Data. Okay. So here, I'm just going to go on to the last one that we did and undo the last 2 things. So you're seeing this. You're seeing column 1 and column 2. It's because the first row in the spreadsheet was not picked up as the column name. So to fix this, just follow my mouse. We go up on the Home tab, and we go to this button that says Use First Row as Headers. I click on that, and now bump, column 1 and column 2 have disappeared, and it's using that instead. Okay? So just give me an okay that you've done that for each of those 2 tables. Let's just make sure, just checking the chat. Okay. And that's that confused me for a long time. All right, so now we are in Power BI. Okay, I'm just going to close my filter pane down. So we can see here on the right-hand side, I'm just going to make it a bit wider, I have my 3 tables, accounting transactions and my 2 cross-reference. Notice these are nicely at the bottom. I'm going to go across to my Data tab. I'm just going to click on each one, just as a sanity check. Okay, accounting control number. Here are all of my fields. We can see here that my column names aren't too crazy. There's some formatting that I want to do, though. Okay, so let's do a little bit of formatting. You see here in my journal voucher item amount. Oh, apologies, there's a printer going off next to me. This is just a decimal number, and the number of decimal places is not consistent, and this needs to be currency. So in Excel, we would change this to a currency field. So let me show you how to do that in Power BI. First of all, we click on the column. And in the new version of Power BI, the Column Tools menu comes up. In an old version of Power BI, you would do it under the Modeling tab. So now what we want to do is we want to change this to currency. So we can see here under Formatting that I have some currency options. So I click down on this, and there's a load of different currency options. I'm just going to here select Currency General. But you can see here it hasn't made my number of decimal points the same. So here where it says auto for number of decimal places, I'm just going to click in there and just go 2, and I'm going to hit enter. And bump, now I have my column correctly formatted. The next thing I'm actually going to do is save this. So I'm going to go File, Save As, Cohort 2, File 2. Okay. Because that would be bad if I lose all of this. So, can people just in the chat say you managed to get to this place? You managed to close and apply. You see the first table, and we managed to get in, and we managed to tweak the formatting. Yep. Everybody's good. If you don't be afraid to say no. Please don't be afraid to say no if you haven't managed to get through and fix something. Can't find format. Okay. So have you closed down Power Query, Oscar, and you're in Power BI? Once you've done that, click on the table called Accounting Transactions. You have to click on the column that you want. If you have the new version of Power BI, a menu item will come on the top that says Column Tools, and under that there's Formatting, and you can change the formatting to do whatever the hell you want to. In the older version of Power BI, there will be a tab called Modeling, or it actually might even be in the Home tab. I can't quite remember. It's been a few months since I've used it. And there you have, it'll look exactly the same as this. There'll be a $sign and percentage. It'll be tucked in there. If you still have, yes, there we go, Aaron. Yeah, it'll be under Modeling. Okay, thank you. Honestly, it's only been a few months since it changed over, and I just can't remember the old version at all. And I said that I had another laptop next to me that had an old version on it, and I logged into it yesterday, and it's a Fisheries and Oceans laptop, and they updated Power BI. So I don't have access to any old versions at all, unfortunately. Oscar, did you manage to find the formatting? All right. So Let's also now click on the cross-reference. So I'm going to click on my cross-reference table here. Thank you, Oscar. Thanks for confirming. I appreciate it. This looks all fine and dandy. And my last one. So I know I have all of my tables. Now what I want to do is I want to check my data model. So let's click on the model button. So look, let's see what's happened here. So Power BI, for some of you, it depends. Power BI is a bit inconsistent. Sometimes it'll have a bit of a guess, right? But here, it hasn't detected any relationships. So I'm going to just make these things a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. Right, here are my 3 tables. So I want to connect these 3 tables together. And we have, let's go back to my data view. I have in accounting transactions a journal voucher type code. All right, remember that column title? And I have a table that says journal voucher type code. All right, let's click on that. Journal voucher type code, ADIEIW, and in my accounting transactions, journal voucher type code. So those are the 2 tables I'm going to link together, okay? So let's go to my modeling tab. Going to move this one out of the way for now. The same way that we did it yesterday. I got journal voucher type code here, and I've got journal voucher, I can't remember what it's called, type codes down here. There we go. So what I'm going to do, if you remember, is I'm going to click on this, keep my mouse button down. I'm going to drag it over this one. And we should now see a line appear between them. Okay. And if I hover over the line, journal voucher type code, journal voucher type code, I actually always go back and look at the tables. Journal voucher type code, and down here, journal voucher type code. You know what? Because I'm connecting text fields together, it's always good to have that second sanity check. So we've linked 2 of the tables together. Now let's link the next one. All right. So this is now I have a field called control data type. Over here, I have a column called control data type. Let's go back to the tables by pressing my data button here. And I'm going to go, and click on the table that says control data type. Okay, control data type. Let's go up to counting transactions. Let's find, here's a handy hint. If you want to find something, just type it in the search bar. Control data. Nope, there we go. And it's just found my things straight away. Okay, so this is really handy field if you've got a lot of data. So yeah, control data type. And in accounting transactions, where was it? Control data type here. So I'd like you all to drag control data type here, across to control data type here. And we can now see I have 2 one-to-many relationships. I went through that fairly quickly, but we did it yesterday with the geodata, all right, in the ice thickness. So can you guys in the chat let me know if you've managed to do that or not? Good stuff. Wonderful. Now here is a really handy thing. When people try to do data modeling, they'll stick this in the middle and that over there and that over there. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. And they'll have 20 tables and they'll try and circle it all together, right? I gave up doing that. I just gave up doing that, right? You have data tables and you have cross-reference tables in my world because I like to be completely oversimplified. So here is my data table. I'm dragging that to the top left. I take my cross-reference tables and I drag them to be almost touching but not quite. And I line up my cross-reference tables across the top. and I just get a very nice, if I have another data table down here, I can just cross-correlate my cross-reference tables with my data tables. It means you get a few overlapping lines, but when you start building big, complicated data models, it's honestly just a sane way of just laying your tables out. You can do it a different way, right? If you want to. Sometimes it actually makes sense to lay things out slightly differently, but in the context of what we're teaching this week, to keep things simple, this is actually fairly good practice. So, what I want you guys to do now is I want you guys to go and get data. You see this list of government departments. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. I want you to go and get that data, import it, check it, and link it to this table. So everything we've just done for the previous ones, I want you to do on your own. All right, please. I am going to go to get data. I'm not going to explain this. I'm just going to hack through it really quick. So get data, Excel, connect. I'm going to go to my list of government departments and numbers, hit open. Yeah, honestly, especially with no VPN, right? I'm going to click on department. I'm going to hit transform data. One thing to check here is I want to make sure my numbers are actually registering as numbers. Sometimes it picks it up as a text, and that means you can't connect things together, but I have a number there. I have department name. I'm going to call this cross-reference because it is a cross-reference table. Hit close and apply. Bang, 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 bang. It's doing its thing. And now I've got my cross-reference, department name French, department number's over here. So department name, department number to department number, bang, bang, bang. Is that good? That's good. Okay, that was less than a minute. 45 seconds. All right, and boom, we've now got a cross-reference table in there. So does everybody's look something like that? I've got my main data table, and I now have my 3 cross-reference tables. You got a double yes from Cherise. I love it. I love it. Yes, yes. It's easy, right? It's not hard. I'm going to hit save. So what does this allow us to do? What was a mistake? You made a mistake? Any problems with anybody? The double yes. Oh, no, keep the double yes. I like the double yes. Never a mistake. So let's just see the impact this has, right? So let's all go up to our report. I am now going to make 2 charts, right? So I'm clicking here on stacked bar. All right. And I'm going to go Control-C and Control-V. You can copy and paste elements. This first one here, I am going to plot department number against my amount, right? So I'm dragging my department number onto the screen and my values. And look, this is weird. It's treating this first one as a number. It's just yuckity, yuckity, yuck. That's just not working for me as a chart. Whereas the second one, because I've linked together my department with my department number, I am now going to drag the English name into the axis. And I'm going to drag my voucher item amount onto values. And bang, there we go, right? The graph is very biased towards the Receiver General and blank, and Department of Finance, and then everybody else is pretty much 0, it looks like. Oh no, it's just very, very small amounts. But nevertheless, by linking the 2 tables together, I now have something that is usable versus something that is basically meaningless over here, okay? So I just wanted to do that quickly just to show you why we like linking tables together. I'm going to do something different. I'm just going to add a new tab. I'm doing this quickly. You don't have to follow along. You can just watch this. But again, here is a bar chart, and I'm going to just do a second one. the first one, the journal voucher code is my axes, and I'm going to drag a mountain again on the values. Okay, I've done the wrong way around. On this one, rather than that, I'm going to go journal voucher code English description on my axes, and I'm going to put the item amount in there, and boom, look at that, right? I mean, we can reformat these to make this a little bit wider, but I need a cross-reference table, right, to look up those, whereas over here, because I have my cross-reference table linked, it's automatically populated the axis for me, all right? So I just did that quickly. I didn't expect you to follow along. I just wanted to show you that here is a table. I'm taking one value, the dollar amount from my data table, and I'm using the axis as the cross-reference table, and it's just given me something that's just a lot more legible. I mean, these aren't perfect graphs in any way, shape, or form, but it's just really, really kind of useful. This is why, or one of the reasons we build cross-reference tables.